on, guys? Welcome back to the Falappi YouTube channel. It's been a little bit, but today we're going to be talking about something that I haven't really talked about too much on the channel to this point, but it's something that I want to start talking about a little bit more, and that is NASCAR. Specifically today, we're going to talk about the Daytona 500, which happened, I don't know, it ended just a little bit ago here, and I want to talk about that race and kind of tie it into how the direction that the sport's going today has kind of led to, I think, the finish we had tonight. So let's get into it, guys. Okay, so Daytona 500. First of all, I want to show you guys. I was wearing my hat a minute ago here. Got the Good Wrench hat on. Pretty sick. Dale, one of my favorite drivers. Rest in peace. Good old number 3. Also got my good old Winston banner back there. You can see my 8 lamp. Junior was one of my favorite drivers. 8, still one of my favorite drivers. I'm pull for Busch these days. You might be able to see up there. Got an autograph from him. Met him in person once. Great. NASCAR. I've kind of been into NASCAR, the concept of the cars and everything for years since I was a kid. I loved collecting the little cars in the cereal. I have a ton of little die casts out of the cereal. Cheerios, petty cars back with the John Andretti days because we had a lot of Cheerios in my house when I was a kid. So, I got the Honey Nut Cheerios, dude, on the old 43 Dodge. And it didn't connect with me back in the day. Oh, Andretti, Petty, all the 43 cars, 7. I didn't think about any of that stuff. The racing product didn't mean anything to me, but I thought the cars were cool for years. Then as I've gotten older, I've started to respect racing, and in the past few years, I've actually started to watch it. Some form drivers that I like and pull for. So, like I said, I've liked Junior for years. Back in the day, he was a Mountain Dew guy. I always liked Mountain Dew. Speaking of drinks, drink of the day. Got the good old A&W root beer going on here. Why A&W root beer on a night of, I don't know, racing proportions? Well, it's a 7-something on a Sunday, and I've got to go to work, and I don't know, I'll be at work 12 hours from now. Like I said, Dale Jr., he was Mountain Dew guy, also was the Budweiser guy, but Bud 8 car, all-time favorite NASCAR, hands down. Was his dad a better driver? Yes. Do I love the 3 car? Yes. 18 M&M's car, amazing looking car. Valvoline cars, Mark Martin. You can name about 1 million paint schemes that were amazing, but for some reason in my mind, my favorite paint scheme of all time will be the 8 car. Forgetting all that, my wonderful collection of merch back here, my banner, my hat, everything, we're here to talk about the Daytona 500. I have been keeping track of the beginning of this season all the way from the Clash. First of all, if you didn't watch that, not an amazing race by any means. A lot of speed there. Truex, another guy I pull for, won. Great. Love to see good old Martin back in victory lane. Also another big thing in the happenings at the Clash. Mr. Number 8, Kyle Busch, Rowdy Busch, there in the new colors with Richard Childress Racing after spending all those years at racing for Joe Gibbs and all that stuff going on. Him and Austin Dillon getting up front and doing good in the Clash. You carry that over to Speed Weeks. Kyle Busch did good in his duel, got knocked out, had to go to the back in the race. Obviously, going into the Daytona 500, I can tell you exactly what my predictions were. None of them came true. So if you look back historically at the way that racing has gone, you look at Speed Weeks, Hendrick takes the pole. That happened. Fords win the duels. That happened as well. Bowman has won the pole or won the inside pole the past how many years as he did again this year. Same as last year. Bowman pole, Larson outside pole. That was normal. This year, instead of getting that RFK going on in the duels, you had other Fords. You had, I believe it was Almirola and Joey Logano. So then you start to, excuse me, I was at A&W working there, as I'll take another drink of that real quick. Anyway, take a look at what was going on in the duels, and then you take a look at what was going on in the pole. that was pretty standard. So then you looked at the Daytona 500, and you would think that that would be pretty similar. So you look at what's happened the past few years, and it's been dominated mainly by Fords or Denny Hamlin. And then you go back to before that, I believe it was 2018, if I'm correct. Might have been 2017. I'll maybe look that up and put it in here. If not, look it up for yourself. But anyway, your past string of winners you had were Ford drivers, then Denny Hamlin, and then before that, it was Austin Dillon in a Chevy. You know, you could write Austin Dillon in that Chevy off as a fluke or whatever. Why has it been Fords or Denny Hamlin? I don't know. Again, we'll get to this in a minute about the way that these races end and dominance and all that kind of stuff versus what I think's going on. Who won tonight's race? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. They even said it in the broadcast. Mike Joy was like, oftentimes on short tracks or road courses, he's been mentioned as being Ricky Stenhouse the second or 2 times or whatever he said like that. And the man wins the 500. Now, I don't pull for Stenhouse. In fact, he makes me angry a lot of time because you'll get to 1 or 2 laps to go like you did tonight. Tonight, it was Suarez. And quite frankly, I'm pretty indifferent on Suarez. I like to see him win. He's a good racer, you know. Trackhouse, great team, him and Ross Chastain. They're pretty dominant racers. Trackhouse, they've changed some of the dynamic at Chevy, as well as it looks like Hendrick is going to get pretty entangled. You know, Hendrick was always your top team. And then, you know, Trackhouse came in, and now with Busch at RCR, forget that Chevy dynamic. I think Hendrick's going to be given a run for their money by some of their other Chevy counterparts this season. But anyway, you have Stenhouse, who usually in a lot of races, and sometimes it was Eric Jones too, who, quite frankly, I've forgiven Eric Jones because he's proven to me that he can overcome that. Stenhouse, we'll see what happens this season. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But Stenhouse, usually at the end of the race, 2 or 3 laps to go, whatever, into the wall. Sometimes there's no one even around him, and he's into the wall. Triggers a caution. They reset at the beginning of the race, go into overtime, shuffle the field. The guy you were pulling for gets wrecked, and some random guy wins, just like happened tonight. Now, I'm not going to say that Ricky Stenhouse is necessarily a bad race car driver. Quite frankly, if he was that bad, he wouldn't be racing anymore. You know, unfortunately, in today's dynamic, you know, you don't have to win 7 championships to keep a ride in NASCAR. You just got to be appealing to the sponsor. But that's what I want to talk about. So, you know, I want to talk a little bit about some races in 2022. Probably, you know, I'm an average NASCAR fan. I don't watch every race. I have a life. At the same time, I don't not watch the race. You know, I try to watch as many as I can. But, you know, if I got to go do something more important, I'm going to go do something more important. You know what I mean? You know, obviously, once you get into the playoffs, you know, Daytona, I wasn't missing this race. There's another handful of races that I'm not going to miss because, you know, they're important. I'm not going to watch every road course. Chicago, I'm probably going to watch just because that's never happened before. I want to see how that goes, Chicago street course. But there's certain races like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to watch Auto Club. I might. Probably won't make a video about it even if I do. But really, I'm an average NASCAR fan. You know, I don't really pull for one specific guy. I don't have a whole bunch of, you know, this is a pretty diverse thing back here. I have some current, most of my things that I have on the shelf, aside from that old Kyle Busch autograph up there, are drivers who aren't even in the sport anymore. You know, I have Dale stuff. I have Labonte stuff. I have Darrell Waltrip stuff. I have Bill Elliott. Casey Kane. Until tonight, I could have written old Jimmy off. Well, Jimmy Johnson's back in the 84. I will say he did pretty good. You know, I didn't watch that heavy when he was still around. I didn't really start getting into it until 2021. With that being said, and even when I did get into it in 2021, you know, I got into it at the point in 2021 really where or even possibly partway into 20. Oh, no, it was 2021. When I got into it, I wasn't even really watching the current races as much because I was introduced to it by hearing lore of all the things Earnhardt did, all the things that went on back in the day. So my really entrance into watching races was watching old races. Like I said, I was into modern things, like Dale Jr. as a person. Some of these other guys as people. I knew who some of these guys were because they were in advertising, but I didn't really start watching many modern races until later. But anyway, like I said, I was watching all these old races. Where was I even going with that? But no, I remember where I was going. I wasn't watching Jimmy as much, but I know he was falling off in 2020. He did pretty respectable tonight until he got wrecked. I'm interested to see what he does at races that aren't the Daytona 500 because, quite frankly, like I said, Dale Earnhardt, 7-time champion, won pretty much everything that he ever could win and only won one Daytona 500. He was even pretty good at restrictor plate tracks. Jimmy Johnson is obviously the king of the intermediate. I want to see him run an intermediate. I want to see if he still has it. Basically, I never pulled for him either. I always thought the Lowe's car was cool, even though, quite frankly, between you and me, I was always Team Home Depot. I prefer, and that's a toss-up, which store I even like better. We can talk about that. You want to have a conversation about where I buy tools, we'll talk about that, too, in another episode, because, I'm a tool guy. I'm a mechanic, so I have tons of tools. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here, before I can go on a tangent all night about racing and about how I feel about different things, but the point I'm trying to make is, and Kyle Busch said it best. So anyway, like I said, I pull for Kyle Busch, love him or hate him. Everybody hated Dale Earnhardt until he died because he wrecked your favorite driver. If he wasn't your favorite driver, he probably wrecked your favorite driver, and you hated him because he wouldn't give your favorite driver a break. Because, quite frankly, and excuse my language, he's a badass. It takes guts to get up out there and throw around a stock car and wreck people. You can kill yourself, you kill other people. It's pretty dangerous. But, to win the money, to get the fame, you got to do what you got to do. And Dale Earnhardt did that. That's what made him cool. He didn't care, and neither does Kyle Busch. And that's why Richard Childress hired him, because he doesn't care, and he does what he has to do to win. So, like I said, I pulled for Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch got up into a position with Austin Dillon for the win. And quite frankly, at the end of the race, I never even put Kyle into the position in my mind that he was going to be the guy to come in and win this race. In my mind, I thought it was going to be a Ford or Denny. And then at another point in the day, I thought, maybe it'll be a different Toyota. It's going to be a Toyota or it's going to be a Ford. I wrote Chevy off because the last Chevy to win the race was Austin Dillon, and in my mind, that was a fluke because, Austin Dillon's good pretty much sometimes at super speedways and not too many other places. However, I think that's going to change. I think Kyle Busch is going to come into RCR, and whether he teaches something to Austin or whether Austin elevates himself to the task of matching Kyle Busch, I think Austin Dillon's going to win a race this year. Maybe it'll be on a super speedway. Maybe it'll be somewhere else. I'd love to see it on a racetrack that's not a super speedway. I don't hate Austin Dillon. A lot of people hate him because he's in that 3 car and he's not Earnhardt. I don't think that's valid. I think Austin Dillon, he wouldn't be a champion in other series if he had not been a decent enough driver. Yes, he's driven in Grandpa's car. Yes, he won't win in anything. I don't care. Some guys have been given the keys to Grandpa's car and haven't won anything. So that's not always true. You got to have at least some talent to stick around. Even if you're not Dale Earnhardt, if you can't drive, you're not going to be in a multi-million-dollar business like that. I regress. Back to what I'm talking about. Kyle Busch said it the best. They were under caution. He was leading. Suarez spun. Kyle Busch said, if this were 1998, I would be the winner right now. And that is true. Kyle Busch, 2-time champion, won pretty much everything else. Paid his dues mainly. Got up to the front. Basically, was fast in speed weeks. Got wrecked out in got wrecked out in his duels, started in the back in a backup car, made it all the way to the front, had a penalty, had to go pass through pit road, made it all the way back to the front again, and lost to Ricky Stenhouse, who more or less was irrelevant the rest of the race. This isn't the first time this has happened. The past how many races, you look at how many races, and quite frankly, Kyle Busch has done it before himself. I'm not blaming Ricky Stenhouse. Ricky Stenhouse winning the Daytona 500 is a product of the modern day NASCAR system. NASCAR overtime, stage breaks, stage cautions, the choose cone, caution timing, all these goofy rules that have been in place for the past how many years are what makes these races end the way that they are now versus, like I said, in 1998, Dale Earnhardt won under caution in his one and only Daytona 500 victory. Under a similar thing, someone wrecked, and he was in the front at the time of caution, and quite frankly, if they never went back green and they hit the lap mark, it was done. They didn't do NASCAR overtime like they do today. I'm not even necessarily sitting here trying to tell you that it should go back to the way it is. NASCAR's never going to be the way it was back then. I can see the sport terminating itself or splitting in half or whatever before the sport ever goes back the way that it was. You're never going to see the chase or playoffs or whatever the heck you want to call it these days go away. That's not going to happen. You're never going to see the charter system go away. I don't think that's going to happen either. Will there ever be another 7-time champion? Maybe. But I think that this new system prohibits that because they put so many things in the way of talented drivers winning so that whoever's left at the end just wins, like Ricky Stenhouse. In my mind, NASCAR has become more of a game of luck than it has a game of skill. And like I said, I'm not hating on Stenhouse. Look at Bristol Dirt last year, which, if you don't want to call that a legitimate race because it's Bristol on dirt, say whatever you want. I believe it was Reddick who was in the 8 at the time, and Briscoe were running 1-2 around Bristol Dirt, and then they wrecked each other, and Kyle Busch was in the right place at the right time and won I believe that was his only race that he won in 2022. He might have won another one, but I think that was his only race that he won in 2022. That might have been a conspiracy. That might not have been. I don't know. Like I said, I pull for Busch, but I'm not this diehard Busch fan. I was perfectly fine with Joey Logano winning last year's championship. I bought into that whole 22 and 22 thing from, the Clash in 22 forward. I just thought that was sick. The 22 could bring it home in 22. But anyway, my point, which I've been dancing around for the entirety of this video, is you look at NASCAR 2002 and before, or 2003 and before. 2003 was the last Winston Cup. And quite frankly, as much as, I like the whole Winston Cup thing, did Winston necessarily leaving have anything to do with it? No. NASCAR was, obviously Winston was going to leave. They changed the laws, whatever. But they could have kept the old rules package, but NASCAR has been increasingly since 2003 to today, to the product that we have today. And quite frankly, the early years of the chase weren't horrible. They weren't great compared to 2002 and before. But NASCAR's put it in itself. It's all about a show. Was that Daytona 500 necessarily a great skills race? Well, restrictor plate racing never is really anymore. It's a bloodbath. Whoever's left standing at the end is the best man. But in general in NASCAR these days, it used to be the best man at the end of the season who had the most points won. I mean, look at Matt Kenseth. He won on consistency in 2002. There's been tons of other guys who won on consistency. Alan Kulwicki, the Polish Prince. That's another great story back in time. I mean, guys fighting in the points battle. Points battle has nothing to do with it anymore. you keep winning races until you're in the top 4, and when you reach Phoenix, well, the best man win. That's it. I mean, look at the one year in the playoffs where Ryan Newman got in, and he got to the championship 4, and had he had done it, he could have been the first ever champion to win a championship without winning a single race. I think NASCAR would have completely shut its doors and flipped its lid if that happened, because I live in town. You could hear the train. But, you know, that was the whole thing NASCAR was trying to avoid was, you know, winning on consistency alone. And they wanted to make it more about winning races and less about consistency, to the point now where, you know, say I was a NASCAR driver, I could win 7 times and DNF every single race and then make it in the playoffs somehow and win that last race. And who cares about those DNFs? There's tons of DNFs now because drivers don't know how to drive the stupid next-gen car. I like the looks of the car. There's a lot of great things about that car, but quite frankly, look at Kurt Busch. Wrecked out of his racing career a couple years early. Bowman came pretty close to getting screwed up there. I mean, different guys had concussions. I mean, yes, I know it was happening before. Look at Dale Jr., knocked out early, and I'm sure it's happened to other guys. And who knows what's yet to happen with stuff like CTE and stuff like that. But, you know, I think the new car packaged with the changes in rules, the changes in the way races are officiated, the changes in everything, has taken NASCAR from being a sport based purely on skill to more of a show. The only problem is, and it's getting better, if you want to look at it from that show aspect. Look at guys like Chastain versus Hamlin. Look at that feud. Look at this new stuff going on now. They're trying to pit together Busch versus Logano with the whole two-faced thing. I like that. I don't necessarily like drivers fighting, but, you know, it takes you back to the days of the old fights against DW and Dale Earnhardt and stuff like Dale Earnhardt and Labonte, and, you know, how these guys used to fight, how there used to be big rivals, how these guys didn't like each other. You know, obviously some of these guys have always hated each other, but, you know, I want to see some of these younger guys getting these personalities. Because if you want to make NASCAR, okay, it's one thing if you take away the skill. I always enjoyed, you know, that's what I like about looking back at the old stuff, seeing the feats of these guys winning these championships, you know, the points battle, week in and week out. Oh, I didn't do well here. I got to lead this many laps here if I want to beat this guy. Like I said, go watch the Kulwicki. Watch stuff about the Kulwicki Championship. That was if you want to talk about points, that's a good season. But you know, if they want to take NASCAR and make it about being a show, you got to get some drivers with personality, man, because you got to make something to watch. If it's a show, if you're going to take the skill out of it, and I'm not saying it's not skill. Do I think I could go out and win in a cup car? Probably not. Could I start today and maybe go win a race in 10 years at a dirt track somewhere? Maybe, if I tried, but I'm never going to be in NASCAR, I don't think. But the point is, you know, these guys are skilled. You can't, it's not all fake. I mean, some of these races are true, hard-fought, gritty fights, but the way that this sport is changing, really, the officiating, the rules, the car, the tracks, you know, it's not the sport, you know, let me put it to you this way. If time travel existed and, you know, you could have the option for, like, Petty in his prime and Dale Sr. in his prime and some of these other guys who were hot shots, you know, to run in this race, say, pick a place, like, I don't know, Chicago Street Course or Clash at the Coliseum or Circuit of the Americas or wherever we're going these days. I think one of these modern drivers would beat Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty, Jeff Gordon, whoever every time, because that's not really the same kind of, it's not the same. It's not the same thing that was going on back then. So I'm going to leave it up to you. You know, I'm not ratting on NASCAR. I'm going to keep watching. I know there's a lot of people who quit watching. They were like, I don't want to watch that anymore. It's not the same. It's fake. NASCAR died with Dale Earnhardt. It's not the same. I mean, it's 2023. barely anything that was the way that it was in 2001 is the same. I was born in 2002, and I'm sure is not the same as I was in 2020. I mean, things change. The world changes, sometimes for the good, sometimes not for the good. I'm going to keep watching NASCAR because it's given me something to do for the past, I don't know, I sat down in my chair at 2 o'clock. And I stayed there and diligently watched that race until like 10 after 7. Gave me something to do on a Sunday, and there was moments of great racing, and there still are. There's still some great races. The Clash was not my type of race at all, but I sat there and watched that. There's going to be races I'm not going to watch, especially some of the road courses. It just doesn't interest me. If I want to watch good road course racing, I'll go watch some series where they're legitimate road course racers. Yes, there are some good road course racers in NASCAR, guys like Allmendinger and stuff like that. But if you put some of them guys up against guys who are running things like Porsche Carrera Cup or V8 supercars or, Rallycross or not Rallycross, but you know what I mean, like World Rally or, Formula One, I'd love to see them put like a guy like Allmendinger up against some guy from Indy, against Lewis Hamilton, against a V8 supercar guy, against some guy from World Rally, and throw them on a road course somewhere and see who comes out on top. It's going to be a bloodbath, I'm sure, because it's the same track, it's the same idea, but you have different schools of discipline with execution, and it's not going to work. But I'm going to keep watching. There's a lot of exciting things. I'm really excited for seeing what's going to go down at North Wilkesboro at the All-Star race. I'm definitely gonna do a reaction to that one afterward. But let me know. Hopefully someone out there sees this. I know obviously I have a sporadic channel going from exploring stuff to working on things to tools, and now we're talking about NASCAR. Expect later in the week a video about exploring some abandoned stuff. That's gonna happen. But if you're watching this video and you're a big NASCAR guy, let me know. How do you feel about the modern day of the sport? I know there's guys who love it. It's the same as it always was. There's guys who hate it, won't watch it. There's guys who are indifferent. I'm one of the guys who's more or less indifferent. I don't necessarily hate the modern product. It's definitely not the same as it was in the Winston days or even in the Sprint days. It's changed quite a bit. I've definitely shared some opinions tonight that a lot of you guys aren't going to like, I'm sure, if you're watching this from a NASCAR perspective. But let me know. Do you think that there's still a lot of this sportsmanship, or do you think that NASCAR has kind of, I don't want to call it fabricated. It's not like some other types of sports where it's all scripted and fake, but the way the rules go, they're giving a lot of opportunities for people to win, that quite frankly, and I know exactly why they're doing it. We get sick of seeing the same guys win over and over again, and they've changed it so many times. They did it the Petty and the Earnhardt way for decades, and they changed it, and Jimmy Johnson won however many in a row. And now I think they finally may have got it to a place where you'll never see another 7-time champion, but I wouldn't count it out. Maybe not with this group of drivers. Someone's going to learn the system eventually, just like Jimmy learned the system and how Dale and Richard Petty earned the system. Someone's going to learn the system eventually if they keep it the same way long enough that you're going to see someone win multiple again. Obviously, you have multiple champions here, but, different rules. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another 7-time champion eventually, if they keep the rules long enough for someone to figure them out. Anyway, like I said, let me know. Do you think that there's a lot of skill, a lot of real racing, a lot of cold, hard, honest, whatever left, or is it all just NASCAR changing rules, changing things, changing tracks to bring the numbers up, change the market, get more people involved, and to put on a good show that makes money? Anyway, I'll leave that up to you. My name is Mike Falappi. Thanks for watching this video. I know it's a little bit different. I know I took a month off. or maybe not quite a month, but I took a lot of time off. I came in hot at the beginning of January, said we're going to get down to business. We're going to do a lot in 23. It's not 22 anymore. It's 23. I should know. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to come in hot with it, and then had some issues with power and electricity and internet and everything. I was living out of my apartment for a little bit, wasn't able to get access to edit videos, too busy to film videos. We're going to get back at it now. 2 videos this week, if not right at the beginning of next week, get a second one out. Anyway, like I said, my name is Mike Falappi. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we will see you on the next episode where we're going to be exploring some abandoned stuff. All right, guys, take it easy. See you next time.